Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. The more I think about UFC 266 and what Nick Diaz did in his fight with Robbie Lawler, the more I think that there can truly be a lesson learned from that fight. And for those of you who don't know, I've already done another video on this, but Nick Diaz lost to Robbie Lawler via third round TKO due to retirement. And what that means is that's just a fancy way of saying that Nick Diaz quit in the cage. He said, I've had enough. I don't think I can win this fight. I'm done. Robbie Lawler landed some decent shots on him. He landed a check right hook. Diaz dropped to a knee. He grazed him with an uppercut. Nick Diaz rolled to his back. Was hoping Robbie Lawler would jump down into his guard. Robbie Lawler said, no, get up. The referee waved Nick Diaz up, and Nick Diaz said, nah, I'm not getting up. I'm done. And I know I've kind of criticized him for it, but my criticisms of Nick Diaz and also the fact that I've been talking about it so much was not because of what Nick Diaz necessarily did as far as quitting in the fight. It was more or less that I don't feel like he ever took the fight seriously. So I feel like he sold his wolf tickets. He showed up for a paycheck. He was never really there to win, in my opinion. Some of you may disagree with me on that. And then the second, stuff started to get just a little bit tough, he decided, you know what, I'm out of here. And that's really more or less my gripe with him. And then as far as the MMA media and the general public, it's just people aren't calling it what it is. He quit in there. Regardless, I mean, it's fine. And I'm going to get to the point of the video in a second where I think there should be more of it, honestly. But you look at some of the fights, and let's look at the main event of UFC 266 more specifically, Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega. This fight was super fun, but if you take out a few close submission attempts for Brian Ortega, he got brutalized for the vast majority of that fight. And at the end of the third round in particular, Volkanovski ground and pounded him so badly that he was almost unrecognizable at the end of the third round. I thought it could have easily been stopped by the referee at the end of the third round. I thought it could have easily been stopped by his corner, by the doctor, by anyone. And I think there needs to be more of that done, whether it be a fighter saying, I've had enough, whether it be a corner saying, my fighter's had enough, or whether it be the referees looking at guys in between rounds and saying, you know what, is this really worth it? Because, taking that much damage can be career altering. Why not live to fight another day? And that's the lesson I really took out of this. I would like to see, and there's so many examples I can go through, I would like to see especially more corner stoppages in MMA. Another example you could use is Brian Ortega versus Max Holloway. And this fight was eventually stopped. I believe it was at the end of the fourth round by a doctor. Brian Ortega took so much damage, and I don't remember at which point I would have actually stopped it. But at what point do you say, okay, the chances of him winning are so slim? Because I know people are going to say, well, what about this guy? He came back after beating, Anderson Silva pulled off that triangle after Chael Sonnen beat him for 4.5 rounds. And I get this stuff happens, and there has to be some type of, I don't know what the word for it is, but you have to look at each case by case scenario. But in most circumstances, I feel like a corner, a ref, can look at it. Okay, this guy's took a brutal beating. Does he have a puncher's chance? Can he land one big shot and KO him? Yes. But are the chances of that likely? After that third round, I gave Brian Ortega probably less than a 1% chance of winning that fight. You look back to the Max Holloway fight, I mean, the beating was so brutal. And even another example involving Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. I can't believe somebody didn't come forward and stop it. Why not live to fight another day rather than take career-altering damage? And I know I was one of the people criticizing Nick Diaz, but I wasn't necessarily, again, I wasn't criticizing him for saying, I can't win, I quit, I have no more. It was more or less not taking the fight seriously, and then the criticism of the MMA media just ignoring the fact of what happened there. It doesn't matter. You got to say what you saw, and that's what regardless, I'm a huge Nick Diaz fan. I told you guys what I saw that night, and that was Nick Diaz quit. He had had enough. And I would like to see that some more. I mean, there's so many examples. Junior Dos Santos, Cain Velasquez 3, or even 2. Both of those were just brutal beatdowns of Junior Dos Santos. I would have had no problem with corner stoppages there. And I think it needs to happen more often. I know fighters aren't going to like it, but it has to save them from themselves. A lot of these guys, like Brian Ortega is so young. I think he's like 29 or 30 years old. He could arguably, not be in his prime yet. And look at the damage that he's accumulated from Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski. It's just been unreal. And he could have been saved a lot of that by his corner stopping the fight or by him saying, you know what, I'm done. So I think Nick Diaz, I hope that he started a trend here because really from the MMA media and a lot of the fans, and I know it's because Nick Diaz has a cult like following, he didn't receive a lot of criticism. A lot of people were covering for him. A lot of people were making up what I call false narratives. They were really saying, "Oh yeah, he got clipped with a big uppercut," and I think one big name MMA outlet said online Robbie Lawler knocked him out in the third round, which that was far from a knockout in my opinion. So I'm hoping this can pave the way for more guys to say, you know what, there is limited to no chance that I win this fight if it continues for a few more rounds. Let me live to fight another day. Let me not take all this unnecessary damage. And, I can go back, train, get better, and come back and be better than ever instead of taking all this damage, which is just totally unnecessary. So I really believe that it's something that needs to become more accepted in MMA. Corner stoppages and fighters quitting in between rounds or referees just saying, you know what, this guy's taken far too much accumulated damage that I want to stop the fight. Another example, before I end this, there's another example that comes to mind. Luke Rockhold versus Chris Weidman. First off, at the end of that third round, I believe it was, Chris Weidman was full mounted by Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold was postured up, landing some of the most brutal ground and pound I've ever seen for a minute straight. I remember I went back and counted the strikes at one point. This was so long ago that I don't remember how many it was. And he landed so many unanswered strikes. First off, Herb Dean, what are you doing there? I believe he was the referee. Disgusting. And how did Chris Weidman's corner not stop it in between rounds? I mean, he was absolutely brutalized. Brutalized. And, if you look at where his career has went since then, he got KO'd by Yoel Romero after that. Almost finished by Kelvin Gastelum, comes back and wins. Uh, Gets knocked out by Jacare Souza. I think he got knocked out by Gegard Mousasi as well. Who knows? That beating by Luke Rockhold could have been career altering. That could have changed the dynamic of his chin for the rest of his career. And now he's taken all this extra damage on top of it. So there's just another example. Give me more corner stoppages in MMA. I want it to be acceptable. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.